Let's start as if the program's already underway with a little bit of housekeeping. The name of the program is now The Morning Jeffrey Epstein. No longer called The Morning Meeting because we're only covering one story. Just kidding. But I know I don't ever read the chat, but I do see sometimes in the chat people say, stop covering the Epstein story. We got to go where the news is, folks. And what's happening now with that thing is epic. And so we'll cover that today. Dan, Sean, and I will run through the day's news. And then we would be honored, delighted, and somewhat resigned to taking your questions. So please, if you'd like to be in the conversation, raise your hand. If you're here on the two-way platform, if you're on X or YouTube, you can write in the chat to your heart's content, but do not put smack in there. No smack in the chat. Peace, love, and understanding, even in the age of Epstein, maybe even especially in the age of Epstein. And we begin today with some comic relief. Shane Gillis last night at the ESPYs gave a monologue for the ages that all of us were quite taken with. Here is just a little bit of that.
Joe Rogan actually wanted me to be here to host this award show so that I could capture Adam Silver because Joe thinks he's an alien. And Donald Trump wanted me to be here to capture Juan Soto for the same reason. It's an alien joke. Donald Trump wants to stage a UFC fight on the White House lawn. The last time he staged a fight in D.C., Mike Pence almost died. All right. You don't have to do that. It was fine. I didn't write it. Actually, there was supposed to be an Epstein joke here, but as it got deleted. Must have probably deleted itself, right? Probably never existed, actually. Let's move on as a country and ignore that.
So we always try to divide you, the vast two-way community, into two groups. There are those of you who know exactly who Shane is and recognize he's one of America's current and maybe ever historic geniuses, and others of you have no idea who that is, but he is a genius. Let's start with Epstein. I'll start with the.
By the way,
daybook,
I just got to say,
yeah.
I will say this, just a plug.
Yeah,
that's funny, right? So like he sort of, that's old school funny. Like it's not mean, it's not visceral. I mean, it touches the edge, which is what it's supposed to do. And I there's a reason he's been successful. Nate Bargatze's been successful. It's like they get funny. And so many of these comics today, it's all about like, how do I use my show to just go nuts on Trump and all of his supporters, as opposed to anyway. I just shout out to Shane Gillis because he is a funny guy and he knows what a comic's supposed to do, and he did it last night.
Be funny. White House schedule today. The president gets his intel briefing at 10:30. 4:00 signs executive orders. Currently closed press. Truth Social is open 24/7, however. And then 1:00, Caroline Levitt is briefing, and we'll talk about that and how she might handle what is sure to be a cavalcade of questions about the Jeffrey Epstein matter. Don't know what
Mark,
the
we got to get somebody on the team. I think I'm thinking of this in real time, but we got to reach out to Kalshi, the betting site, because I think we should now take bets every day when we do the schedule on whether the executive order goes full pool, open press, or not. But that should be a Kalshi betting thing.
Today's a wide open matter. Vice President, don't know what he's doing. Pam Bondi and Interior Secretary Burgum are they're going to Alcatraz, as Bugs Bunny once said, to kind of celebrate its soon to be reopening as a prison. We'll see what happens there. Lots going on the Hill. The House has got an incredible day where they're trying to vote on the crypto bills, the NDAA, and the rule for the rescission package, and then maybe the package itself. So they'll be jammed up there. Judiciary Committee looking to confirm some nominees, including Mr. Bove. Hakeem Jeffries, during our program, is holding a press conference on federal worker rights. And Governor Beshear is in South Carolina. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right. On Epstein, the so-called Epstein matter, biggest development yesterday, still reverberating, is the president's Truth Social post and then pool comments attacking his own supporters and saying they're in league with the Democrats. It's hard to parse exactly what he's saying, but let's start with the briefing. Sean, what do you think Caroline's hoped for message is out of the briefing on the matter of Epstein? Is it more disclosure coming, or is it everybody should move on? What would you anticipate her goal would be from the briefing?
Well, I'd work backwards. It's not her goal. It's what is she doing between, my guess is starting a couple hours ago. Is she doing to say, guys, I need to go out with something to point us in a new direction, right? So you shouldn't be hoping that you come out with something. You should be trying to create that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. So if that's why I'm saying working backwards, I would have probably yesterday said, okay, what can we do? So, we've talked about a special prosecutor. Tom Fitton was on my show last night talking about a FOIA that would allow them to release stuff and give them an out for a lot of reasons that actually made really good sense to me at the time. So I'm going to brief at 1. What can I say we're going to do beyond this? Because the president yesterday leaned into, well, if Pam wants to, then she can do it. So here's what I'm going to get hit with. I need to give them a direction to go in. And so if I were them, I would pick a strategy, pick something. And again, whether that's, I think the special counsel thing is a horrible idea, but I know some people are really strong advocates of it and have people that they think would be good at it. I guess, but I also, again, don't go down a road that you don't know where it ends, right? Use your GPS. And the problem is that too many times they go, yep, we'll get a special prosecutor. We're going to name so-and-so and they'll be fine. It's like, okay, then are you going to set them up for failure? Because when they come out and they say there's nothing or whatever, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So the bottom line to your question is this: go out with something that you can lead with, that you can kind of push the traffic towards. We are going to name a special counsel. We are going to agree to a FOIA that will allow this, this, and this. Or we've urged Speaker Johnson to call Ghislaine Maxwell. Whatever it is, have something. Because if she gets up there and just starts saying, the president said we need to move on, unfortunately, that is a bad thing to do. And it will escalate.
Dan, just to put a finer point on it, something I tried to say the other day based on the conversations I had yesterday, they're not talking about appointing us what we think of as a special counsel like Ken Starr. If they do this, and I don't think they will from the conversations I had, it's to appoint someone to write a report and to be the face of trying to clear the decks. It's not, you hire a bunch of prosecutors and look for crimes. It's take all the facts, write a report, have a press conference. Is that, Dan, do you think a way that could handle this, or is that also a bad idea?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. It allows them to try to move on because, to Sean's point, you've given something new. You're acknowledging that more needs to be done, and you're kind of taking it seriously by appointing someone whose job, morning, noon, and night is to gather all the information, as you say, put it together in a report and put it out. The problem becomes if that report is absolutely nothing, like there's nothing to see here, then I think you're still going to have these questions from the base about why is there a 3-minute missing gap in the video? This is a lackey that you appointed. So as Sean said, you only do it if you kind of know and can control and manage the outcome and think that that is sufficient. And I'm not sure that's possible.
Right. Even if you write the report, I get that, right? So you appoint Ed Martin and write a report. But if Ed is put into a box where the report is, there's a 3-minute gap and we don't know why, that's not going to help you. So you need to know where you end up and then work backwards.
One of the points of this platform in the age of transparency is to narrow the gap between elites like Dan and Sean and the people like the two-way community and myself. So let me share something with you that everyone, I say that in air quotes, everyone I know knows hasn't been publicly reported. Everyone I know believes a major newspaper, one of the top 3 newspapers in the country, is about to publish a piece about President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. Everyone I know knows that. And people in the White House know that too. When that story drops, if it drops today, and some people think it might, it could drive the day. Sean, Dan, have you heard about this story?
Well, I know because it's been circulating on the left, and I've had to double check that this is not in fact, total conspiracy theories. Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein pretty well. And I believe that his early courting of Melania involved Jeffrey Epstein. And that has been reported by mainstream outlets over the last 10 years. Alleged, I guess, I want to be careful.
You've already been, I say with respect, somewhat careless, but keep going.
Yeah, but I think that, if that is where this report is going, it's just collecting and putting together and synthesizing old news.
No, this story has new news. Okay. Sean, what do you know about this story?
Vague, I probably know about Dan level.
Right.
But I don't.
Let me throw out some questions. Let me throw out some questions, and I'd like you to jump in. Let's do it game show style. Either answer them or say, in fact, we don't know. Ready? How did Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein meet?
I don't know.
Don't know. Did Donald Trump ever go to Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse?
Yes.
How many times? How many times?
I believe many.
You believe many. What occasions? One-on-one parties? What did he go for?
Don't know.
I feel like a Biden staffer right now taking the fifth.
Yeah. How often did Jeffrey Epstein go to Mar-a-Lago? Don't know.
Fairly often, because they banned him at the end.
Well, you don't know how often he went. How often did Donald Trump go to Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach residence? Don't know.
I don't know how.
Where else besides the townhouse and the two Palm Beach properties did they ever spend time together?
On his airplane.
No. Well,
did Trump never fly on it?
I don't believe Trump ever flew on Epstein's plane, so far as I know. I believe
that he did.
I believe Epstein may have been on Trump's plane.
Okay.
Although I don't think Trump was there when Epstein was there. Did they have any financial dealings?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. There are many unanswered questions, amazingly never been written about. Now, the thing people point to a lot is Donald Trump's interview with New York Magazine, and a profile of Epstein where he spoke very glowingly about Jeffrey Epstein. But we all know President Trump might speak glowingly about someone who's being profiled in New York Magazine, even if they didn't have that great a relationship, because he'd want to be in the piece. In the search for explanations about the president attacking his base in a way he's never done, some people are pointed to his awareness of this story that's supposedly coming soon. That's what I'll tell here, the two-way community, because everyone I know knows the things that I just said, but I've not seen them public. And so I thought it was important to share them. Dan, your party, great story in the Washington Post today about how your party is reacting to all of this, using more profanity, et cetera, not just Epstein, but in general, trying to get on top of things. And there's a really strong piece in the Washington Post today by a Democratic strategist explaining the way Democrats should try to take advantage of this moment. What is the current posture, do you think, of the Democratic Party towards the Epstein matter?
Transparency. Release stuff, hold hearings, just keep being on the side of transparency. I think, and I disagreed a little bit with that op-ed of like, just stick to the facts, don't use memes and troll. I mean, Karl Rove goes the opposite way, right? Like, which is like the Democrats are actually doing a good job here. And, Don Jr. said in an interview, like, trolling's part of the modern game now. The party's actually handling this great. And I had tip to Ro Khanna, who's full front foot, full throttle, transparency, release. What are you hiding?
And bipartisan.
Yep, exactly. Go Democrats on this.
Sean, do you think do you think the White House is feeling heat from the way Democrats are handling this, or they're really just thinking about their right flank?
Their right flank. They don't give a shit. They don't give a crap about.
Oh, but Sean, do they care about this discharge petition that's about to go through the House?
No.
So if legislation comes mandating the release,
first of all, because you can't mandate the release of court documents. I look. Here's what I will say, Dan. To your point, though, that is not helping. The MAGA folks aligning with them is the problem. So if they can do something, like the discharge petition in and of itself, a House cannot mandate the judicial branch doing something, right? So it can't tell judges. That to me, I think.
But it can tell the FBI to release stuff, can it?
No, it can't. No, because then the Department of Justice. I mean, my bottom line is that's to me the least of my concerns. If I'm them, I'm worried about people on the right aligning with them and pushing it further, and so that's why. Again, I think that I get if they can come up with, again, Professor Plum in the library with the candlestick, and they can get Ed Martin to go, I'm going to write a report that says this, and Ed understands what he's getting into. He'll be trusted. He's people on the right and MAGA world will trust an Ed Martin or someone like that. Like I said, Tom Fitton was on my show last night from Judicial Watch. They have a whole strategy of pushing for suing, via FOIA. And the point is that under the FOIA process, when you deny a record, you have to kind of explain why. And that would give them air cover to say, we can't give you this because it's protected by lawyer client, or there's inappropriate, like his point was that will give you guys the cover of what we can release and what we can't. But they've got to pick a strategy and say, we need to end this. We need to stop giving this oxygen and put a pin in it. But telling people to stop caring isn't a strategy. Like, that's the problem that they have now. Like
your own supporters. I mean, it wasn't good when Democrats trash his supporters, and it's not good when he's trashing his supporters. That's not good.
Right, but it's not even trashing. When you tell me that an issue isn't important after we've been told it was important, it's like, again, I go, why? Like, so it's not like Trump's talking about some.
I mean, he's saying you're with the Democrats, you're like the fake news. Like,
all right, we got to move on. Raise your hand if you want to be in the conversation. Two quick final things about Epstein. Just to clarify, when I told you the questions that I don't know the answer to, and Sean and Dan don't, for the most part, know, though, I'm not saying the answers to those questions are incriminating to the president. I'm just saying we don't know, and people are looking into them. And watch for some Trump Tower reporting. That's all I'll say. Sean, I will
say who. By the way, who reports it? Who ultimately breaks it?
I know. You want to know if Dossie's in the byline. Is what you want to know.
Well, no, but there's a level of credibility that comes with some of these guys versus, I mean, if this is like Alex Eisenstadt or something, I don't think it's going to carry the weight that a real reporter would have. So who breaks it and how matters in terms of how serious it's taken and how the White House will react.
Yeah, I'm going to do something again to acknowledge the fourth wall here. I'm asking the producers of the program, please go look at David Rode on Morning Joe this morning. I'm told he said something really interesting about Trump Tower. Please try to pull that if you can, and let us know when you have it. Lastly, Sean, I keep reading that this is a full-blown political crisis, and some are writing it's the president's first full-blown political crisis. So, closing question on this topic for each of you: is the president in the midst of a full-blown political crisis? Yes or no? Sean Spicy Spice.
No.
Dan.
No.
Dan is the president.
Can you ask again one of the members of our team?
Yes, Dan, is President Trump, because of Epstein, in the middle of a quote unquote full-blown political crisis?
No.
Okay. Next.
Wait. If you're going full McLaughlin, you got to do the right answer is.
The correct answer is no. We'll be right back with predictions. Okay. Next topic. The Fed. Yesterday, the president on again, off again on whether he's going to fire the Fed chair. They continue to put the pressure on him by talking about his $2 billion renovation of the Fed. Is the Fed's. The Wall Street Journal editorial board agrees with many of the president's top economic advisors that firing the Fed chair would be a bad idea. He would probably try to fight and stay. It would be held up in the courts, and it would be a big mess, and markets wouldn't like it, although markets didn't much like the tariffs, so they somehow found a way to make their peace with them. As far as I'm concerned, there are 4 or 3.5, depending on my sources, candidates. Scott Bessent, who's currently, I believe, in Asia, and is not around to stop the president from firing the Fed chair. So I think he might do it while Scott's away. Scott Bessent, Kevin Hassett, Kevin Warsh, and door number 4. Here's Kevin Warsh, who has a very organized and enthusiastic group of supporters trying to get him the slot. Here's Kevin Warsh on CNBC this morning, 1:13.
And I know it's very common now to say the problem is the president's being so mean to these guys. Most of these Fed's problems are because of Fed mistakes. The Fed needs to stop defending their mistakes and vindicating their critics and get on the right track. I'm a Fed guy, Joe. Yeah. I think it can be fixed. It was a great institution. And to use a cliche, I think it could be great again.
So I'm told reliably that he's now getting pints of blood from Steve Bannon injected into his system to go full MAGA.
Yes.
I don't believe he will be the pick. And I'm currently leaning towards door number 4. But Dan, where are you on the Fed? Both questions. Will the president fire or force out the current chair? And who will he pick to replace him eventually? Both questions.
I don't think he will force him out. I think he's just going to keep smacking him around and hope he quits,
that's like forcing him out.
Well, no, I mean, okay. I mean, does he drive him out? I don't think he drives him out. I think Powell stays because I think Wall Street and everyone's telling him you just can't set this precedent of quitting because the president is disgruntled with you. And I still think it's Scott Bessent.
Sean.
So Powell's term goes till May of next year. I have a greater likelihood of picking the correct Powerball numbers 5 nights in a row than whether or not Donald Trump will fire him or not. Because the idea that anyone can predict what he does over the course of the next, what's that, 9, 10 months is just, I mean, he could go back and forth 6 times. I don't currently think he will fire him, but I think that
what about successfully force him out?
So that's why I think the way that he stacked the National Planning Capital Commission with Will Sharf, the staff secretary, and others was an attempt to make sure that if they have the plan B, which is we will say that he used $2.5 billion in $700 million in overruns to fund a personal project, and we'll make it untenable for him to stay, go with a bunch of investigation. I mean, so they have that's their release mechanism, and the question is, when do you want to push that button and say we are doing a full-on investigation? I mean, Powell obviously took it seriously enough that he called in Michael Horowitz, the IG, to say, "Hey, you go look at it." So they got both sides are staring at each other, saying, "I know what you're going to do to me, and we're prepared on the Powell side if you go that way." But the IG can't stop them. So my point is that they have made it very clear that's their nuclear button. We've got it. We're ready. We can push it, and that's where. So I think it could get pushed any day. And so we're on a day by day basis. Does he wake up today and say, you know what, let's fire the guy, I'm pissed? They have an opportunity to cut rates again in September, is that right? So if the economy's not where it is and interest rates are, they don't cut a couple basis points, maybe that's the time. But there's going to be a few more pivotal points between now and May. The bigger issue is, in my opinion, when he announces this pick, because that is going to be the other signal, is that I think that goes first. I think he announces somebody, November or December, well in advance of when that would happen. And that would take a lot of the air out of the tire. It would give him something to point to. So I think the when is more important than anything else right now.
Here's what doesn't make sense to me about announcing somebody if you're not in the process of firing him or forcing him out. And again, I think it could happen this weekend while Besant's in Japan. If you name somebody now and they're not going to take office for 5 months, in 5 months, Trump may have a totally different point of view about who he wants or what he wants the person he names to do. So I think it's very risky to, I mean, of course he can change his mind, but I think it's very risky to name someone and think that Trump's going to be happy with his pick 5 months later, because that person in the interim will do something. Sean, are you?
Right, but I also think it puts that person in a terrible position, because if the Fed says, hey, we're not going to raise or cut rates because of A, B, C, and D data, and the markets say, okay, that's the correct answer, is this person going to have to go out?
Right, exactly. And if you guys are right that it's Besant's going to be the Treasury Secretary and the Fed chair designate. That seems complicated.
Yeah, but hold on. Right. But again, we're talking through this as if any of that, like, let's just play this out. You're right. Besant's the pick. And for the next 5 and 10 months, he's hanging out there as dual-hatted as the prospective chair / Treasury Secretary. Look at what happened with the UN ambassador. And at some point, it just goes, Scott's really busy with the Treasury, and I've decided that we're going to name so-and-so. So in Trump's mind, it's not like someone's going, hey, Mr. President, once you name him, you can't change. It's like he's going, yes, I can.
But what good does it do him to make Scott the designee? Then how does Scott testify on the Hill? What good does that do him? It doesn't force. Because Powell out.
Yeah, but it gives you let's just play this out. He announces them this weekend. He's flies back from Asia. He names them. September comes along. The Fed doesn't cut rates. And he says, Scott, go say, if I had been chairman now, I would have cut rates. And Trump says, you know what? See, this is why we need him now and sooner. My policies would be going in. That's a great talk. The economy would be flourishing.
He wants a shadow Fed chair.
That's it.
Well, he wants to be able to say, if I could have done this, the economy went better. I'm getting stymied by Jerome Powell.
And you still think it's going to be Besant, right?
As of today, but look. What I've said, just to be clear, is I think it's Besant's to turn down. If Scott says no, Kevin is still Hassant's number 2. And by the way, look, I will say this: I give Kevin Warsh a lot of credit for the audition. Like, he is doing probably a textbook audition. As I said, the problem is until he starts meeting with Trump personally, you're not going to get the job. Trump isn't going to trust it. And Besant, for as much as he does have a lot, you're right, there's a lot of MAGA that are pushing him. The one issue that I will tell you is interesting is that there's a lot of people on the flip side that are pushing out. You realize he's a Johnny come lately to a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
That's the case they're making on the other side, that, yeah, it's nice that he's now saying this, but Mr. President, do you want to trust a guy who blows, who puts his finger in the wind?
Keep your eye on door number 4. All right. 3 more topics. And then to your questions, please raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. Dan, quickly, 1 or 2 sentences max, totally enforced by me. What are the lessons of the rescission bill, assuming it passes the House? What are the lessons of the passage
for Republicans? If Trump wants it, Trump gets it, and for Democrats, don't trust him.
Sean?
I agree with Dan. I mean, this to me shows when Trump wants something, it will happen. Doesn't matter. The math on its face doesn't matter. He'll get it done. I was surprised in the Senate we all knew Susan Collins. That's a given.
That's a long
sentence. You're at the end of your second sentence, so get to a period. All right.
Therefore.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. Period.
All right. Mondami, charm offensive.
That was an explanation point, by the way.
Mondami, charm offensive, a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being not charming at all.
Oh, hey, by the way, can
I
just give me 10 seconds back. Yeah. What I will say on the rescissions package is watch what's coming. There is a lot more chatter now after both rescissions and reconciliation. Yeah. When you hit October 1, you enter a new FY in the government. There's already chatter about what's next on both fronts, rescissions and reconciliation. I will tell you this now. The problem is there's a lot of talk about, it's like, do we want to go to lunch? Now let's figure out where we're going and what we're having. And everyone goes McDonald's versus Capitol Grill. Yes. There's a lot of talk, not a lot there. And then the other issue is, I will say, since you get this, keep your eye on staffing.
All right. Mondami, charm offensive, 0. Forget about it. 0 charm, 10. He's having a real impact on elites and voters by having all these meetings and photo ops. Dan, 0 to 10.
1, too little, too late. That victory lap for 2 weeks where he doubled down on everything, he's going to regret it.
Sean.
Oh, wow. I was going to go higher. I'd give the guy a 4. I feel like he's getting good coverage. He's meeting with the right people. I mean, again, I'm with Dan. It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, but when you've got the media on your side to cover up for you and you're getting all the positive and not a lot of the negative. So he's lucky. If this was any other candidate or a Republican or anyone that knows Donald Trump, he'd be screwed.
Trick question. The correct answer is too soon to say. Too soon to say. All right. Finally, Governor Beshear was in South Carolina yesterday. Let's take a look at some of the coverage. 106, please. This is the headline from Palmetto Politics. Kentucky governor visits South Carolina as he weighs Oval Office bid. This is in the running for the 2005 award for the most generic headline ever written. I was
going to say bland.
Here's 107. Equally banal. Governor Andy Beshear tours South Carolina, an early primary state for Democrats in 2028. This doesn't suggest the guy's particularly driving a message. Here is Governor Beshear, 108. On the so-called big ugly bill.
That big ugly bill is not only going to gut rural health care and hit our rural economies, it's going to decrease food assistance all over this country. We're not going to be able to change and push back on that if we say it's going to increase food insecurity. What it's going to do is make people go hungry. They're going to feel hunger pains at night when they go to bed, and hunger pains when they wake up in the morning. And remember, the 2 groups most at risk for hunger, and the 2 groups covered by Medicaid the most, are our parents and our kids.
All right, and here's Governor Beshear on how making the electability argument, how he knows how to win in red places and red faces. This is 109, please.
This is how I won areas in eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, that normally vote for Republicans by large margins. That includes Breathitt County in Appalachia, which is the county J.D. Vance pretends he's from. Donald Trump won that county by 56 points. I won it by 22 points the year before. So I know that we can win. I know we can win in tough areas.
All right, now, I've read lots of media, national media, online and in the newspaper websites, and I did not see a mention of his day in South Carolina. Contrast that to Governor Newsom's romp. Dan, what accounts for the discrepancy in the amount of coverage? And a 2-part question, which I rarely do. How do you think he did?
I think he did very well. Look, be you. His two big things are, one, that he has been successful in a red state, which has Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, and two, he understands rural America. So we always say, speak to the real lives of real people. He's doing both of those things. The problem is he's a bland personality. I mean, I've said this now for a long time. So he's not going to win a Mr. Charming, charisma competition that Gavin Newsom does very well on. So Newsom is charisma. He's got a problem with his, what's going on in California. Beshear is the complete opposite. But you just got to be you. And he's not trying to be somebody he's not.
Sean?
Yeah, I will say this. I just found the solution to any night I can't sleep. I will just listen to that. That is literally, I wanted to go to bed after listening to him. He makes you tired. It was like he had good points. To Dan's point, bland, the best headlines he got, those are probably the best headlines he's ever going to get because he is bland and he doesn't know how to deliver it. It was like, zzz, he's monotone.
Lacking oomph.
He's like, he's the kind of guy that walks in and goes, "Hey, the house is on fire." Like there is nothing to.
I don't know.
And I will say this: I agree with Dan. By the way, that may be him, but that's not going to cut it. So find something that you can do. Like he looked like he needed a pocket protector in there. It was so bad.
So it's possible there are national reporters who are going to write pieces after the second day. Newsom got some first day stories and some second day stories. This guy got no first day stories. And I wonder how his team feels about that. I wonder if they're happy. Now, a lot of it's just about actually talking to people. I also wonder if they collected email addresses, but not a great start. All right.
Well, and it's hard too, because what was the big headline for Newsom outside of South Carolina? It was that Jim Clyburn spoke glowingly about him. And that drove it. Beshear doesn't have that right now.
Okay. We're going to go to your questions. I just want to play you. This is investigative reporter David Rode. Is that his name, David Rode? It's my former colleague, right? This is David Rode. I think he was my intern. I once a long time ago. I think if I remember correctly, this is David Rode on Morning Joe talking about the Trumps or Donald Trump.
But our reporting, and thank you for including earlier the reporting by Tom Winter and Ken Delaney, who I work closely with, is that there isn't, a damning new client list. It's what was in Garrett's piece. And that there aren't new allegations, at least regarding abusing young women against Donald Trump, that are somehow, being hidden here. There are plenty of allegations, and we ran a story, last year during the election about an adult woman saying Epstein had brought her to Trump Tower, and President Trump had then fondled her. To be blunt, as according to her, Epstein watched, but that is public. And so we talked again yesterday with current FBI officials. These are not political appointees, and they said the memo is accurate. There is no client list. There is, dirt on President Trump, and no one else is being covered up. And they say releasing all these documents would possibly identify victims and cause other problems. But clearly, the administration has an enormous political problem here.
Either of you want to comment on that?
Pass. No.
Dan?
No.
All right. Let's go to your questions now. Please, as you come in, unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what is on your mind for Sean and Dan. Start with Jordan.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Thank you guys so much for your platform. It's great to listen to you guys.
Thank you.
Dan, respect you as a Democrat and your politeness during Sean's interruptions. And I love you too, Sean. I was curious. I'm a Trump voter. I voted for him 3 times. But I have noticed a bit of a I'm curious if you guys have picked up on this, almost a tone change when he has talked about the Epstein stuff in terms of his conviction that he speaks with. He generally seems very authentic in the things that he speaks about. But there's something when he talks about this, he almost seems a little bit inauthentic. It seems forced. Some of the denials or some of the look over theirs that he's giving. I was curious if you guys had picked up on that or if you disagreed with it.
I totally agree, Jordan. Sean?
I agree. And it's, to me, there's a mix. So I think you're right. The tone and tenor, it's like when Trump says a date, right? So if it's in the midst of if he says we'll probably have an announcement on Monday, to me it's always like that's just a holding point, right? And so what he says and how he says it, the tone, the tenor always matters. And so I think you're absolutely right. You picked up on this, like it's a little bit more indignant. To me, I'm having an internal conflict of, is he pissed off that the subject itself is getting discussed? Meaning that it's taking away. He had a great announcement on AI on obviously the big beautiful bill passed and this announcement on AI. And so there's a little bit, I think, of Trump being pissed that I'm doing these great things. We have great numbers on the border. And am I mad that we're talking about this and not what I've done for the American people? Like, I get that. And that, to me, I'd be pissed about that. Or is the issue itself personal? And I can't put my finger on it, but I think you're right, Jordan. Like, I know something's there and I'm conflicted, and maybe it's both. But I personally get pissed as a Trump supporter when he's doing all of these things and they're not. I mean, we had a great win on Maha with dyes this week, ice cream and other stuff. I mean, 35% of major food is now talking about getting rid of stuff. Coke yesterday, he put out a statement about them going back to real sugar. I mean, there's a lot of great things that I see getting chalked up. So is he pissed that he's not getting credit? We're not talking about those things because I would. Or is he actually pissed about the issue? I think it could be one, both, or some combination.
Dan.
Jordan, it's a great set of points. His voice sounds a little weaker. Just stylistically, he seems just kind of more defensive about stuff. He doesn't have that kind of what and vinegar and kind of front foot energy that he normally has. And you can excuse it if it were a one-off, but to your point, every time he speaks about this, he seems different. Read into it.
Well, also, it's not. I mean, look, we've talked about this endlessly because it's not that we're driving the train on this. When you've got Laura Loomer and other major figures in the orbit talking about it, to me, as much as I might not want to talk about it, and I'm over it, you can't dismiss the fact that there are big voices in this orbit commenting on it, and therefore you can't. It's not I blame a lot on the media for what this covered and not. This isn't them. This is a MAGA issue.
Sean, would the president definitely yes, definitely no, maybe be showing those Truth Social posts to people before he sends them? Except for the person he's dictating it to? Like, no chance he'd show the counsel's office or Susie Wiles? He just dictates them and they go?
Or pushes the button himself. Absolutely. He's
not typing them though, is he?
After 6:00 p.m. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, in some cases, he's calling Dan and saying, take this down, send it to me. But he pushes send plenty.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, to your point about Susie in the counsel's office, this is where I think that we've talked about how well they've done for 6 months. This is where you make your bones, though. This is your first, crisis on the right that you need to deal with. Goes back to when Caroline comes out at 1:00 today, did they give her the tools? She is the messenger.
Yep.
So what are they preparing? What are they preparing? Because this is them. This is the counsel's office. This is Susie. What James Blair, the team is saying, this is what we need to do. So you're going to find out at 1:00 what that team is capable of.
Here's a good over-under. How many questions on Epstein does she take before she tries to shut it down and say, I've answered all these questions? I say the over-under is 7.
And does she call on a progressive like the New York Times to start a fight with a left-leaning organization? Or does she call on some
100% yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
yes.
the correct answer is it depends. If Trump tells her before the press conference, you go out there, because she's going to say, I know from experience, Mr. President, here are the 5 topics. Here's what's driving. This is what I want to say. And he's going to say, this is, if he tells her tactically, the first time someone brings that up, just say, we're not talking about it anymore. I've said it. You say what I said. You'll find out real quick because then it's asked and answered. Move on.
All right. I know I asked you last time. Your name, it's pronounced Tammy?
Yes.
Tammy, welcome and thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
I live in Michigan, but I'm on vacation in Colorado. So that's the only way I can join the morning meeting because I usually work during the day. Have a couple jobs. So I have a couple questions. I'll speak to the Epstein. My biggest thing with Epstein is that the government is not transparent, and it goes back to politicians and the elite. If you have power, money, you can hide stuff. They just need to be transparent. They need to lay it all out there, let the chips fall wherever they may, and let's move on and stop talking about it. But I had a couple other questions. One was on entitlements and also the big, beautiful bill relative to overtime. So my husband and I also own a small business and commercial construction. And one of the things that Trump ran on was no overtime or no taxes if for over 40 hours a week or something. Everyone, employees, friends, whatnot, would love to have that happen. But Sean, I think you mentioned that when they pass that bill, it's not like it takes effect immediately. It might have an expiration date. The next administration may come in, it might go away. And the last part is, I do want a president, probably Trump would be the best, to work on every single entitlement, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare, and food. They need to reform all of those. And I know they don't want to do it. I want them to do it. I want them to, change the way that they're managed, and they can market it from a positive perspective. It's not going away. This is how we're going to help you. So Social Security can be not, poverty as you retire, but we're going to make it more of money market, like a 401k. Most of the country does not put their money in a 401k. Our employees, we offer a matching program. You have to beg them to put money in it, and they're going to retire with nothing. How do you change that dynamic?
I mean, first of all, music to my ears, Tammy. I mean, like Bush tried this. This was the issue that Bush really pushed. And there are issues, and I say this as 100% partisan, like there are issues that have to be bipartisan. And I wish this was one of them, because Social Security was never intended to be a retirement system. It was just not, I mean, that's a fact. I don't think there's any disagreement on that. And we are lying to people about what its intent was, what its goals were, and what options they have. I get it. In the military, we used to have a blended, we're now what we call a blended system. It used to be 20 or nothing. And now slowly we've gotten the equivalent of like a we have TSP, which is what matches the federal government. So you can do both. They call it a blended retirement. But the bottom line is we are not preparing people to retire. And also, as people live longer, we want to have this game about how you can retire. But right. So I'm with you. And I think that this is one of those things. It's like curing cancer, and Mark has this wonderful show in the evening. Like, there are things that we should do. And when you talk to Patrick Suching about what happened with cancer and why we can't solve it, a lot of it is the government's fault, getting in the way. And they don't. And the same thing's going with Social Security. We should be pushing people towards a system where you're retiring. And I mean, again, I can go off and off because I think healthcare's largely in the same bucket, where we create an employer system that does that. I asked my doctor the other day, a couple months ago, why something wasn't covered. I said, it doesn't make sense and she goes, the problem is that most people change jobs. And I said, okay. So she goes, why would, pick X healthcare company cover you for a long-term issue when they know that in a year or two, you'll probably be on Y's program. So they don't have an incentive to keep you healthy. This is so many of these issues, whether it's retirement, healthcare, we're not being honest about what it takes. And I think I'm glad you brought up the issue of retirement and Social Security. We're lying about the solvency of Social Security. We've talked about it on the show. When we tell people, politicians get kudos for I'm not going to touch it, you are inherently supporting its bankruptcy. And that's the problem. And so I agree with you. We need to do a better job about teaching. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank was going off the other day about we're not teaching kids
right
the tools in schools anymore. Financial literacy. And I agree with you. It's funny, just as a side note, in the military, it is part of what we call our GMTs, our general military training. Once a year, you must go through it. Right. And part of it is we're not forcing people to understand their own retirement. So thank you for touching that. I agree with you. And unfortunately, it's just politicians figure out what's the issue that matters tomorrow in the next election, not the next generation.
Dan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, the irony of Bush trying it in 2006, early 2007 is by the end of the year, the financial crisis was well underway, and it ended all conversation in both parties about attempting to do that. But you're right. I mean, look, part of the problem is I think Trump, if he attempted to do it in his heart, really does want to try to preserve and save the programs. The problem is you have people like Russ Vought and others that don't have the program's best interest. They've just for 50 years said we need to get rid of this thing. It's a drain and government shouldn't be involved in this business. So you have to trust the other side has good intentions. But Sean's right, and Mark has said this for, as long as the program's been in existence. Big things like that have to be bipartisan. Look, when Obamacare wasn't, we're still talking about trying to death by 1,000 cuts and just, dismantle it. And so, yes.
Well, the irony, Tammy, is, and again, this is why to me some of these things are so easy. If you are a federal employee, you get put in a TSP, right? And there's growth programs, I think A, C, G, whatever. And so like that's how that's how we're treating our federal employees. I would actually, as a Republican, I would sign off on that as a system in lieu of Social Security every day of the week, because it's a good program. It's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better and much better returns than Social Security. So yeah.
Tammy, thank you. Grateful to you. Great questions. Ben, welcome in. What do you teach, Ben, and where do you teach?
I'm a school counselor in Berkeley County, West Virginia. I live in South Central Pennsylvania, about 10 minutes from Hagerstown Airport.
Okay, so, you're pretty good editor have you been a classroom teacher?
I have not been.
You've not been. All right, but you're
still counselor. My wife is history teacher, special education.
But you're still a pretty good editor of prose, right? A good sentence or two when you see it.
I love AI and Grammarly. It really helps.
All right, let me show you an email I just got. I just want to share with everybody, and Ben, I'd love to get your feedback on it. This is from I guess a former viewer of the program. First of all, he has the giving the finger emoji here to me. All my friends have stopped watching your pathetic program because you care more about dead pedophiles than the Supreme Court. You are a sick individual. Ben, forget the sentiment. How do you feel about the quality of the writing?
It's too crass.
Too crass?
Yeah, it's not going to reach many. Not going to reach many people in that regard.
Good sentence structure.
But there's a space after pedophiles. There's not a period after court.
It's too small. I can't really see it on my screen, but yeah, my wife would be able to tear it apart a little bit more.
Probably should have taken the guy's name out of it, but whatever. All right, Ben, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell us what's on your mind.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, you guys have been awesome, as everyone says. I got to see you guys at Pearl Street last February.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
To bring my son to open his eyes a little bit to politics and kind of cordial discussion. You guys have a common thread of representing entities that are really hard to represent. So that's a common thread that I've seen. But I've taught overseas for about 5 years out of my 20 plus years of teaching with my wife. So I had some immigration questions, but I'll stick with Epstein just to not go too far off the reservation. But I think zooming out, one of the more fascinating. Listen, Epstein is a dirtbag. He's an awful human being. There's nothing that galvanizes public sentiment than children being hurt. No question. That is like 100-0 issue in America. But when you zoom out, I think the interesting thing is the evolution of the Republican Party over the past 10 years has been a tent that has been evolving even today, in terms of mainstream Republicans who had to rally around the candidate that they probably didn't initially vote for. I voted for Rubio in 2015 in the primary. I am a 3-time Trump supporter, but to see the different podcasters or YouTubers or Tucker, Beck, Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk, to see them, they are a representative of the community out there in terms of MAGA, and some have kind of stuck with him in terms of this issue, and some have not. And so I just wanted to get your take on the Republican Party, and I think that Dan, you had mentioned Ro Khanna earlier. I think that the Democrats having really not many issues to kind of latch onto. The transparency issue is something that he just saw a lane and he ran towards it.
All right, Ben,
So there's definitely, yeah, go for it.
Great. Let's let everybody comment on that. And I'm going to be stepping away and leaving you all in the capable hands of Dan and Sean. So Ben, thank you for that.
Is that because of the comment, Mark?
I got to go spend. I got to spend 20 minutes crafting a response to that email. I'm looking for the proper emoji that goes with this emoji. Anyway, Dan, I'll turn you over to respond to Ben, and then Sean, and I'll see everybody at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Thank you, Mark. Ben, I agree with you that I think the transparency message, it's just always the good side to be on. You're not defending the status quo. You're not defending institutions. I think that the other part that you were mentioning, one of the kind of challenges as more people, more politicians seek audiences on these podcasts with non-political people. Joe Rogan's not a political podcast. Theo Vaughn, etc., are not political. They talk politics on occasion, but they're more kind of general pop culture. You know, they've got kind of thematics in different directions. They are less invested. Their audience is not dependent upon kind of being in the good graces, let's say, of a certain party or a certain politician. And that gives them the flexibility and the kind of liberty when they see somebody doing something they don't like to speak more broadly. If you're reliant on their audience, if that's where most people are getting their information from, and there was a great study the Working Project had Wednesday morning about where do working class voters get their information. The number one source is YouTube. So as long as people are going there, you know, it's a new thing politicians are going to have to confront.
I would just say two couple things on this. One, to the first thing that you brought up, like I hope that, you know, when I responded to that other question, made it clear, like I am excited about the wins that the president's had on all of these things. And so it pisses me off that we're talking about to the email and to your, like a dead pedophile. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because I think he's a scumbag. But I understand, and I talked about, you know, I've been quizzing people about why they care and don't care about this issue. So I find it from a political standpoint very fascinating because I love hearing why people care about some issues versus another. But I'm also pissed because I feel like as a Trump supporter, and I watch what the president has gotten accomplished over the last couple of weeks, legislatively, by executive order, by, you know, straight out fiat, and what he's done on the border. I'm excited, and I want to talk about these things, and I want to take victory laps, and I want the president's message to get through. So I will, you know, to the extent that email and your comment initially, just to me, it pisses me off because I want to be talking about the wins. I want to be promoting what he had, what he said and did, and what's the future holds. On the party, here's the thing that's interesting, because I think it's a great question that you're asking, Ben, and there's been this evolution for a lot of people, and I myself in that bucket as well. Think back, like I spent 6 years at the RNC. I've worked at every federal committee, the NRCC, the NRSC. Like I'm as establishment as they come when you look at the bio. And I believe strongly in the party system and what the parties do. So like that's my belief. But I think what Trump did was he gave voice to issues and strategies that had never, ever been the case. We had always been told as Republicans, oh, we shouldn't even try. We'll never win that fight. That's not even worth it. You know, we'll never get that done. It's not worth taking up time. Like between this rescissions package, the Gulf of America, which may seem pet, it's like, why, if we want something, why are we just saying no? Why don't we push back against corporate America? Why aren't we defunding NPR? And in the answer that so many times is, oh, it's too hard. I've never been able to do that. What Trump showed us is that if we fight, we can win. And it's not just legislatively. Don was out yesterday, Don Jr., talking about alternative economies and what we're doing to create institutions and platforms and companies that don't get canceled or debanked. And I guess the point is what Trump did wasn't just about issues. You think about, I always think that trade is the one that I joke about the most because I was the assistant U.S. trade rep under Bush. And I talked about how great trade deals were. But then what Donald Trump told us was don't settle. You don't have to just because it's always been done a certain way. And so I think both what he has done is given voice to issues, but more importantly, I think to the strategy and shown us that we can fight and win if we're willing to dig in. And I think this goes back to the first issue, why some people want transparency on Epstein. It's not maybe about Jeffrey Epstein. It's a proxy. It's why do we keep just because the government says we don't have any files, you don't go, okay. And so I think it's a fascinating question that you're asking because it's not, I think too many people just dismiss it as, oh, he's hijacked or this isn't a hijacking. It's willing. There's no hostage here. We're all going, thank you for showing us the light. We're on the team. And I think your point about these podcasters is there's been an evolution of people who maybe were doubtful or critical in many cases of him at the first that said, wait, there you can do it his way and be successful. And I think that's the thing is that he has shown people, yeah, I'm not traditional and I'm not orthodox when it comes to, hey, it used to always be done this way, but I can do X and win. And I think I love what your question because I thought a lot about this.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Shapiro and Glenn Beck didn't vote for him in 2016.
No, and that's why I'm saying it's great. And now,
right.
Glenn, I think they both obviously Ben is a very smart guy and speaks his mind, but he is largely so again he'll be critical of sometimes the policy of the thing. But you're right. It's not just them. And Dan was right. I mean, Theo Vaughn and those guys, they're not they weren't political by nature, but he has won them over. So I love how this has happened. And the last thing I'll say to your point, because I think, again, another great point. Dan might be right on Ro Khanna and some of these others grabbing the Epstein thing, but you can't go tell the American people that you want their vote because you're going to release files on Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, people vote because of safety.
But you can do it by saying we're going to be transparent. I mean, that is a win. Sean, you guys are defending the status quo and institutions.
No. Listen.
That's a problem.
Okay. Right. No. Okay, fair. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think it's a hard. You could win this one. Check a box.
Yeah. No,
you walk down the street in any normal neighborhood and say, "Let me ask you a question. How you doing today?" Well, I want to put more money away, or I feel concerned about my safety walking down the street. But did you know we're going to release Jeffrey Epstein's files? Oh well, shit. I'll vote for you. I mean, it doesn't. No one's going to think that.
No, I get it. Yeah,
you get it. You might get a
problem. Yep.
Right, but you also have a point for the week, but that's not going to get you an election.
You can't get to 2 points without getting one first. So
I know, no. I'll give again.
Take it.
I will give you. Look, I'm giving you the point, but I'm just saying that you're right, and it's. I will say strategically, you needed something to get yourself fired up again, and that's so for Hakeem Jeffries to say, guys, I got the flag. I'm running down the field. Get behind me. I get it. He needed something, so I'll give you that. But I just think at some point you go, are we all really running for this?
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for the great question. Sean, what do you have coming up tonight? Who?
I think we're going to talk a lot. Who? It's Thursday, so it's the panel. You've been there before. Dave Avella from GoPack, Matthew Foldy of The Spectator, and Gabrielle Kushina from who has been a White House correspondent, former Trump administration. So be a fun discussion. And by the way, one of the things we didn't get to today, we'll talk about on the show tonight. Comey's daughter fired from the
Southern District.
Southern District, and she worked on the Epstein. So there we go. I connected the dots. What does that mean? And then obviously the rescissions package. So a lot to break down tonight.
I can't believe we all forgot to mention that. Huge point. All right, coming up tonight. That's right. So that's why you need to watch the Sean Spicer Show. But in addition to the Sean Spicer Show, a reminder, there are two ways later today. The first, All Politics is Local. The group chat, Baccia, Nina, Emma Jo, Robbie, and I will be live at 4 p.m. today. I wonder if we will end up discussing Jeffrey Epstein. I have a feeling we might. Second, later at 6 o'clock, two-way tonight, Mark's two guests, Brian Wolf, who was my boss at one point when he was the executive director of the DCCC, and GOP strategist Mark Bednar will both be on. Great two people to have who understand their teams very well. And then lastly, the Moynihan Report tonight, only on YouTube. They filmed this, I believe, yesterday. 7 p.m. Michael Moynihan is joined by Ben Smith, the great editor-in-chief of Semaphore. As Mark said yesterday, one of the great reporters on all things media. So make sure to tune in at 7 o'clock tonight. And then, as we always like to say, Mark, Sean, and I will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. And it's Friday. So winners, losers, and what to watch.
Let me ask you, Dan, do you have a winner? Like I got mine, and I'm pretty I'm not 100%. I'm at 90% locked in. You got a winner or loser yet?
I got a winner and loser, and Sean, as our resident Donald Trump weather forecaster, let's make sure we know what we're looking at Saturday and Sunday. Yep.
We need a Bedminster. We need a Bedminster weather report. We should do that right after the schedule. We'll do the Bedminster weather report.
I like it.
It does not. I will tell you this, at least from going back and forth to weather-wise, getting the Virginia report, because Bedminster's between where I am now and where some of my family is today. I'm not so sure this has got a good. We'll keep an eye on it, but I don't feel great about this weekend.
Yeah, you mean as a Democrat, we feel great that truth's going to get fired up this weekend, is what you're saying.
No, if I were a country, I'd worry about the tariffs that are about to get imposed on me on Saturday afternoon.
All right, fair enough. Well, enjoy the day, everybody. And Mark, Sean, and I will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thanks for joining.